Lee, before you go today, if you had a time machine, in the beginning of the show, you took us back, you rewinded time in a few seconds. So let's go back. If you could rewind time and you could give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be? I mean, you could tell yourself to buy Bitcoin, but like apart from that, it doesn't have to be in health, but
I
in
have a great one.
anything.
I have a great one, and it's probably going to resonate and relate with a lot of people. I really think that vulnerability is one of the greatest forms of leadership, and I definitely think we live in a world now, especially from a male perspective, where a lot of people, both male, both female, but like let's talk about males struggling with mental health issues, depression, especially men find it extremely difficult to open up around their vulnerabilities and what they perceive are their weaknesses, and they don't like talking about things. And me personally, now I've learned and I believe that vulnerability is one of the greatest forms of leadership. So if I could go back in time, I would definitely tell my younger self to embrace being vulnerable so much more sooner, because we all know growing up, especially as a man, we might have tendencies to have this almost alpha male attitude where we don't like talking about our flaws, we don't like talking about our weaknesses, we don't like talking about emotions because emotions mean weakness, and we don't like being vulnerable around the things that scare us and that we're afraid of. And now I'm at a stage where I embrace being vulnerable all the time with my clients, with myself, in my relationships. I've done a lot of therapy. I've done a lot of work on myself on this, around all of these things. And I truly think that if I could go back in time, one of the pieces of advice I would give myself would be just to embrace being vulnerable a lot sooner. Because I definitely spent a lot of my years operating with a lot of dark energy and maybe a chip on my shoulder, and feeling like that I could never show weakness and I could never talk about these things. And I always had to present myself that everything was going right and I was never struggling all these things. But now it's the other side of the coin, like we talked about on this episode here today. Huge advocate of embracing all the struggles, all the flaws, all the weaknesses, all the setbacks, all the challenges. Because if you can identify those things and you take responsibility and ownership for those things, I know if I did that sooner, I'd be 10 years ahead by now. Because that's where all the success is, identifying those weaknesses, identifying those gaps,